Hello everyone and welcome to Staffordshire Chamber of Commerce Business Festival. My name is Laura Hodgkiss and I'm the event and training team leader here at the Chamber, and we're delighted to have you for one of our pre-records today, which is the future of the office, and we've got Vanessa Oakes and Steve Hargreaves from Staffordshire University. The pre-record will be recorded on the time slot available to it, but you will be able to watch it later on should you want to, or be able to pass it on to anybody that misses us the whole way through the webinar itself. With that all said and done, Vanessa, it's over to you.
Thank you, Laura, and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Vanessa Oakes. I'm Course Director for Leadership and HR Programmes at Staffordshire University. I work predominantly with part-time students and work-based learners, and so it's imperative that I keep up to date with what's going on in their environments so that I can facilitate their learning in that way. So as the preamble says, this webinar is intended for organisations which are predominantly office-based and have some capacity for a remote or virtual workforce, and we'll talk through more about that through the presentation. But the session is not only about remote working, flexibility and technology. We're also looking at how organisations are evolving and some of the future challenges that they might face, which will impact how they operate. So my aim today is not to give you a checklist or suggest some best practice tips, but rather to give you some food for thought. What do you as an organisation want to look like and why? I plan to introduce some recent research around flexible working and socialisation and work-life balance to help you to understand some of the benefits and challenges that come out of those. But this is to help you to make your own decisions. Each organisation represented here is going to be different, not only in your purpose, but in your organisational culture. So what works for one organisation won't necessarily work for another. And so the key to thinking about how we will work in the future is how flexible will we need to be. Now, most organisations or workplaces won't continue to operate in the same way as they did 2 years ago, and who knows what might come in the next 2 years. I think if we've learned anything in the last 18 months about how organisations have had to change, it's that they'll have to be ready for even more change. But most organisations have adapted and adapted well, and that bodes well for any future changes that come your way. So where do we start? Well, the first thing to do is to consider some of the possible ways in which the office may be impacted with future changes. And we start by looking at digital transformation. We all know that technology is moving on at a pace, and over the last 2 years, we've seen the rise of digital, synchronous digital communication. So that's live, everyone communicating at the same time. With platforms like MS Teams releasing enhancements regularly, they've obviously kept up to speed with what the market wants. So the way that we're able to communicate virtually has improved considerably. And this allows us to think differently about how we, for instance, schedule and attend meetings nationally and in some cases internationally. Do we need to travel as much? Can our meetings be more efficient? This one area of digital transformation may make it more cost effective, more efficient, and of course more sustainable, a new way to do business. But technology is improving in other ways too, and not all communication needs to be synchronous. Asynchronous platforms like Yammer are becoming an easier way for us to communicate with each other, with our teams, and also with external stakeholders, particularly when that communication only requires a quick answer to a question. Other technological enhancements are around the use of chatbots. So thinking about, for instance, Alexa and Siri and how we use those in our day-to-day lives. I know that some organisations are already using these for simple customer service queries and some even for internal use. I know one large public sector organisation uses it in their HR department to answer routine staff queries to free up the time of their HR department. So these changes are about how we work, but there are also significant changes around automation, which will impact what your organisation does. So recent research from Deloitte highlights that a specific global manufacturer, who I won't name, aims to replace 30% of its current workforce capacity with robots or automated systems. It doesn't actually plan to reduce any jobs, but it plans to redeploy those workers into more highly skilled roles. Not only upskilling the workforce by doing that, but potentially improving the economy in the process. But one thing that robots aren't good at yet is customization. And for instance, a global car company with a production facility in Germany plan to reduce the number of robots on their production line and replace them with people, because customization, which is in high demand at the moment, isn't really cost effective using robots. So automation will become more readily available and prevalent, and your organization will have to decide how best to use it. The second external factor, which may impact the way our offices operate, is legislation. So this is in relation to how we employ our people, as well as areas such as intellectual property rights and import or export requirements, trade deals, and so on. We've seen a lot of change in this area in the last couple of years, and the likelihood is that we'll see quite a lot more. Another external change is around co-working spaces. So these started to appear a few years ago. Small organisations and sole traders benefited from being surrounded by like-minded individuals who were also working on their own businesses. These are run almost as managed offices, but with the addition of the ability to collaborate with others, to hot desk, and also to work in open plan spaces. These are likely to become popular again as we see more of these types of spaces opening in local communities, where people who may be working remotely or from home may decide that they don't want the hassle of commuting to an office or even using their own home space as their working space. This will give them a level of flexibility in how they manage their working day. Another external change is around globalization, which we've seen a lot of in the last few years, and this is going to change slightly. Technology has made the world smaller, in the sense that it makes it easier to provide products and services to consumers in other parts of the world, but it also makes it easier for us to increase the talent within our own organisations by employing international contractors and experts, and that will continue. But Brexit and the pandemic have put up a hurdle for some organisations when it comes to import and export, but it's still possible to provide services in other countries, and it's still possible to utilise talent, especially where we have gaps in our own labour market and skills within this country. So moving on to internal factors, so those that are impacting your organisation and that you have an opportunity to impact. So skills, do we have all the skills that we need for the future? Do our workforce possess those skills? Do we even know what they are? And most importantly, are our staff willing to learn? Now, during the last 18 months with the pandemic, you'll have gained some insight into this. And whilst you may not know the specific skills that your staff are going to need, you will know who's going to be more open to continuous development. So those people who you target for development opportunities will become more obvious. Another internal factor are around job security. So over the past decade, we've seen a shift in the ability of organisations to offer long-term job security, and this will continue to be an issue. On the back of that, retention may become problematic for those staff who value flexible working. So if you're unable or unwilling to offer it, your staff may choose to go elsewhere. We've also seen a rise in organisations offering retention bonuses, and this may increase with regards to shortage occupations and hard to fill roles. So retaining talent is going to become challenging. We've also seen a rise in people moving out of cities, presumably because they now have more flexibility in how they work. And I don't see this stopping anytime soon. Another internal factor to what the future may look like is collaboration. So we've seen a change in how organisations collaborate internally with the conscious decision to remove silos, but we've also seen an increase in how organisations collaborate with each other. Supply chain collaboration has been on the rise for a number of years, and we may even find that we start collaborating with our competitors. I think that this approach will only increase as we come together globally to solve the major challenges we face as a society. Climate change and possibly even preventing the impact of future pandemics might be two of those key areas. And finally, management. So even before the pandemic, large organisations were starting to recognise that layers of middle management were making them less agile and less flexible. The key to organisational agility has always been communication, and if you have effective communication channels in place so that the top of your organisation can communicate effectively all the way down to the bottom, there's almost less of a need for middle managers. This approach is likely to continue as organisations become more agile. So what if you are one of those middle managers? And the key piece of advice I'd give is to find ways to add value to your organisation using your specialist knowledge, experience, leveraging your credibility and influence, and let those be the measures of your value rather than simply your position as a manager. So in one slide, I've introduced some of the main challenges and changes that are likely to impact the office and how we work. I would caveat that by saying, of course, I don't know everything, and there may be some big changes around the corner that no one can predict. But if your organisation has considered some of these factors, then you should be in a better position to change as the environment around you changes. So, location, and how much does it matter? In the previous slide, I mentioned flexible work locations, and this may become a significant driver in your recruitment activity. And at the moment, there are a number of debates about where and when staff work, including the latest call for staff who are working from home to be paid less than staff who don't. I have my own opinion on this, as I'm sure you do, but consider the reason you pay staff the salary that you do. Is it an attendance salary? Are you expecting people to earn their salary simply by being present? Or are you paying them for their output? If it's the latter, then what you think will be the impact of you suggesting reducing salaries? What do you think, sorry, will be the impact of you suggesting reducing salaries for those who work flexibly? It's unlikely to be taken too positively. But what will happen to offices as more and more people work from another location, some, if not all of the time? Already, we've seen some large organisations reduce their office space, either by subletting or selling some of it off. And there's always been a great need for more low-cost housing, particularly in city centres. So this could be a solution to that particular problem. I have no answers here, but this is definitely one to watch. And if you're considering reducing your office space by maximising flexible working, for instance, consider what that might do for your profitability. Right, so the evolution of work and how work has changed over the last decade or so. This is a piece of research that was conducted by Deloitte in 2018, which is relatively recent, but it's still pre-pandemic. And if anything, I think the pandemic may have sped up some of these changes to the way that we work, or at least highlighted the need for organisations to be more agile. So the first reality of the future of work is exponential organisations, and these are organisations who have capitalised on their potential. They've unlocked technology and recognised the value of innovators within their own staff. These organisations usually have a disproportionately large impact compared to their peers. And the key here is that these organisations are technology and data driven. Many organisations in this category have also started very small, so there's a lot of potential for SMEs here. The second reality is the unleashed workforce. The gig economy, freelancing, 24-hour everything, mobility, crowdsourcing, etc., have all created an alternative worker profile. Somebody who isn't constrained by the traditional boundaries of work. So considering how we use people who sit outside of what we would consider to be the normal, traditional type of employee. Lifelong reinvention is another reality of the future of work, and no longer do we have a career for life. This is linked to lifelong learning, longer lifespans, and also many people choosing to work past the normal retirement age. I read something in the paper today that suggested that with the advent of hybrid working and working from home, we may even see people choosing to work longer than they had originally planned. This isn't about seeing older workers as a blocker to young talent, though, and rather an opportunity for organisations to recognise the strengths of each generation and to utilise them in the best way for their own organisational performance. Next, we move on to technology, talent and transformation, which we've touched on already. But with the cost of technology decreasing, and there being no doubt that by using technology and automation in the best ways, organisations will save labour costs. But as I've already said, there is a trade-off, and that trade-off is about being able to offer a personalised and bespoke service to your customers and your service users. Organisations also need to be ready to regularly assess the roles of their staff and the skills that they need. So this isn't something that can be done annually or every couple of years. This is something that's going to be needed much, much more often. Then moving on to the ethics of work and society. So ethical arguments for AI, for instance, and societal arguments for a universal basic income will continue, and organisations will be held to ethical account by their stakeholders, including their service users and customers and the communities in which they operate. So this is about organisations taking responsibility for their strategic decisions. Then finally, or nearly at the end, but the nimble enterprise, the difference between what large and small organisations can offer has changed. The competitive landscape has changed, and smaller, leaner and more agile organisations may in fact be more successful than their larger counterparts. So size isn't everything anymore. Next, we have a regulated approach to innovation. So some sectors and labour market segments have been unregulated in the past, and this has allowed for a loss of worker rights, for instance, with Uber and other gig economy organisations, as well as financial implications for organisations where these have now been recognised and put right. So expect more regulation as governments start to understand recent innovations in employment, as well as ethical debates around, for instance, AI, and the changing agenda around sustainability. So talent, and moving on to people, how important are they? Well, organisations are choosing their own approach to how and if they offer flexibility, but consider the following issues alongside your decision. What does flexibility actually mean? So some staff want to work from home, but what about flexibility of working hours? Some staff work better in the morning, better in the evenings, and outside of the non-traditional working hours. Some staff want to work from home, some staff don't. Are you able to offer a mixed approach? Do you need to be consistent in some way? Are you expecting staff to be available during traditional working hours or not? And how is this going to be managed? Note that I didn't say monitored. I think in any approach to flexible working or hybrid working, there has to be an element of trust. And so that's assumed. Again, back to retention and attracting talent. Can you compete with organisations who are offering more flexibility? Considering how important some of your key staff are and making sure that you're addressing their flexible working needs. Thinking about discrimination, and in particular around vaccinations, which is the current debate in the media. We're seeing a variety of approaches to requiring staff to be vaccinated or not, as the case may be, but consider those who can't or won't take up the vaccine. In some cases, their wishes should be accommodated. In some cases, it may pose additional risk to your customers or service users. So your response should be proportionate to business requirements, but you should also consider how and if you make reasonable adjustments for those staff. I'm not aiming to give you any employment law advice, but what I would say is that you should start a conversation with those staff with a genuine desire to find a way forward, rather than setting out a policy which is going to be really complex for you to accomplish. Thinking about health and safety and workstation in the working environment, something which we weren't able to give too much attention to when we went into lockdown and forced home working. But as we continue down that road, organisations should be giving more thought to how suitable home working environments are. Do staff, for instance, have the right equipment to do their job? Or are they making do with what they have? Are they working on the kitchen table? Are they working on the sofa? And how long can that continue? We have a duty of care to our staff, even when they're working at home. So organisations need to perhaps think strategically about how they address that issue. Also, ensuring confidentiality when people are working remotely, whether they choose to work from home or at another location. If they're involved in confidential work or conversations or looking at confidential data, is there going to be a security risk in them accessing that data or having those conversations? Equally, work-life balance can be maintained. How can it be maintained? With a lot of staff feeling that they might be living at work with working from home becoming so much more popular. Sickness absence, another key area to consider. The ONS has reported a decrease in sickness absence rates from 1.9% to 1.8% over the past 12 months, which might not seem high, but if we also look then at the increase in sickness absence due to mental health issues through working from home, we can see that there is some give and take. It's a bit of a double-edged sword. So consider the impact of potential staff absence as you're making decisions about your organisation's ability to offer flexible working. Also, childcare. Even before the pandemic, organisations that I'm familiar with occasionally allowed staff to work from home, to look after children who are off school due to illness or school holidays. But as working from home becomes more normalised, consider your expectations around those working from home so that they're able to look after their children either occasionally or more regularly. Do you need staff to be available at certain points during the day? If so, how will you manage this? When will staff be doing the bulk of the childcare duties? And will this impact their ability to do a full day's work? These are conversations to have with staff, not necessarily a reason for saying no out of hand, just an opportunity for a conversation. I think the main consideration in all of this should be around maintaining and improving productivity. When we involve staff in decisions about their work environment and working hours, usually that has a knock-on effect on their engagement too, and we see an increase in productivity, retention, and even a decrease in absence. So while these impacts aren't always measurable, staff who have these motivators in place are always more likely to give more effort, not necessarily in terms of working hours, but also the effort that they put into their work. So when staff are engaged, your organisation performs better, and that's the compelling reason to do something. Right, socialisation at work. And water cooler conversations. This has been a topic of conversation for the last 18 months or so. How much have staff missed opportunities to socialise with their colleagues and their teams? When staff are able to socialise at work, the research suggests that there is an improvement in engagement. And as we've already mentioned, improved engagement improves organisational performance. So when staff are able to shape the way that they work and build relationships with those around them and share information, they work better. And not all of this can be replicated in online environments. On the opposite side of the spectrum, some staff may find these social situations a real distraction to their productivity. So how do we manage these two ends? And again, it comes down to conversations. Open conversations with staff about what works for them are crucial here and may impact the shape of your thinking about how your staff will work. Consider how you encourage effective socialisation in your workplace and how you benefit from these through some examples, some around using social and in-person situations to enable and facilitate collaboration, get staff to share ideas and brainstorm with each other. Also, how you make opportunities available for those spontaneous connections and opportunities to network. Of course, building and maintaining relationships with colleagues and managers is essential in keeping things moving and keeping everybody productive. And often, face-to-face and in-person situations allow those to be strengthened. And as I mentioned before, as we remove layers of middle management and flatten our hierarchies, we enable more effective communication between those at the top and those at the bottom. So we're actually, allowing more people into the conversation. So benefits for all of these changes for organisations. What's in it for you? So enabling a new way of working or embracing a new way of working helps staff to set boundaries for themselves, improving their own work-life balance and releasing the pressure that they may have felt to be available all of the time. It improves retention and engagement, so thinking about a happy and stable workforce, giving staff what they want or what you can provide for them in their working environment has a knock-on effect on their productivity. Recognising the strengths in your workforce and capitalising on these when future changes come allows you to be ready. And allows you to, if you're not ready now, at least identify the areas where you need to make preparations. And most importantly, leaders set the examples for staff. So if you want your staff to embrace new ways of working and do it effectively, then you as leaders in your organisations need to do the same thing. And of course, there are cost-saving benefits to be realised, both in terms of the physical space that you occupy, but also potentially in redistributing work, rearranging how your organisation operates, and thinking about your recruitment requirements in the future. Some key considerations and takeaways from today's session, something to leave you with to think about. How far are you involving your staff about changes to their work, and what impact is this having on their performance and productivity? The more you involve them, the more they feel a part of the decision-making process and a part of your organisation going forward. Consider changes that may come and whether you have the skills within your workforce to accommodate those. And if you don't, start developing the skills now, either through some of the opportunities which Steve will share with you in a minute, or through other forms of formal or informal development opportunities. Be prepared to make regular changes to your organisational structure, looking at how people work together, what they do, what the organisational relationships look like, how you flatten that structure and how everybody communicates as a result. And then consider how aligned your organisational values are with societal and ethical debates that are currently at the forefront of everybody's minds. In particular, younger workers expect businesses that they work for to play a positive role in shaping society and addressing its most pressing needs. So things around the ethical debates I mentioned earlier, as well as the issue of climate change and sustainability, will be key to their own agendas. That's it from me about the future of the office. Hopefully, I've given you something to think about, if nothing else. And I'd like to pass you over to my colleague, Steve Hargreaves.
Well, thank you, Vanessa. That was really insightful. I'm really pleased to join you today. I'll be taking you through an offer from Staffordshire University that we're really excited about, really familiar with the theme of future of the workforce, and this offer can accommodate hybrid working, which is a theme that Vanessa mentioned. It also have private offices as well, so we do have the mix of both. As you can see in the two photos there, it's quite a modern facility that we've got. It's brand new. And some of the features there include meeting rooms, which you can use, video conferencing facilities, which you can also use as well, kitchen and social area, a post room, which you can have your parcels delivered there, and storage lockers for your personal belongings. Next slide, please, Vanessa. As you can see, we're located right in the heart of Stoke-on-Trent, really good proximity to Stoke-on-Trent main station, right in the heart of our Stoke-on-Trent campus. Next slide, Vanessa. Here are some photos of the Mellor building where the incubator is based. The photos there again show the modern environment that we've created. At the bottom left is the shared office called the Hatchery. That's the area where you can rent a desk. And again, that is really facilitating the future of work and hybrid working, where you may want to rent a desk for a few days a week. Membership is a monthly membership, and you can use it as often as you like. As you can see there, there are some students in there at the moment posing for photographs. Next one, thank you. Yes, some more photographs here just so you can get an idea of the modern space. Top right corner there with the students is the kitchen. The kitchen area is your space where you can have your lunch and have informal get-togethers and meetings, and those water cooler moments that Vanessa mentioned earlier. Top left is one of the private offices that's available, and on the bottom is one of the hubs that you can just use for the informal meetings. What's really interesting as well is we've got full video conferencing facilities. I think Zoom is a way of life now that won't go away post-COVID, so ideal services there to use Zoom and Teams on our video conferencing room. Next slide, Vanessa. Also, the offer includes specialist facilities and expertise. We're really targeting the materials sector, but we can open up to any other sector that is quite innovative and creative as well. If you are in the materials sector, we have lots of equipment that may look familiar to you on the list there that you can use as part of your membership. We also have CPD Academy, where we can give you free training as part of the package. Next slide, please, Vanessa. Also on campus, obviously, we've got brilliant facilities. So we've got lots of places to have coffee and food. Some of them are listed there, but obviously we're right in the heart of Shelton. There's lots of choices. So we're quite an ideal location for your startup business or your business to locate. Certainly won't be stuck for choice for lunch, etc. Next slide, please. So I mentioned CPD. We do have offers where we can offer CPD to your company. As part of our incubator, we offer CPD on innovation and leadership at no cost at all. Also, we offer CPD on advanced materials if you are in that sector. That is fully funded part of the incubator and accelerator, and that'll be part of your monthly subscription. We do also offer tailored support for early stage entrepreneurs, access to a dedicated team, and flexible working spaces. Next slide, please. So who can benefit? It's any business really that wants to base in Stoke-on-Trent. You could be relocating from outside the area, or you could be downsizing your office at the moment and want a little startup hub with ourselves. So we're looking for businesses that are innovative and want to create processes in advanced materials. We're open to any entrepreneurs and startups who are growing a business in the area, and any individuals who want to start up or have a satellite office in Staffordshire, and we offer very competitive rates. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to cover other funded support that the university have as well alongside the office incubator. So we do have funding available for prototyping and new product development. So if you are a company that are developing new products, we do have funding available to help you with that. Lots of facilities on site and lots of expertise. So please get in touch with us if you want more information about that. We offer funded support for innovators in transport, logistics and mobility. We have a brand new project called the Skimmer programme. This can support you to develop new ideas that can help the future of transport, logistics and mobility. You get access to our specialist equipment, and you also get access to like-minded entrepreneurs and also our expertise on whatever you're doing. We have lots of CPD opportunities and also apprenticeship funding that's available to your business. Again, please inquire about our options. We're more than happy to have a chat with you about your needs. We have an agency at the university that can hire student and graduate talent. That could be part-time, full-time or permanent roles. And again, competitive rates and very, very good service. And finally, we offer innovation support for large employers. A lot of the things that we've been talking about are for SMEs and startups and for small employers, but we do partner with Innovate UK for smart grants and also knowledge transfer partnerships for larger businesses as well as smaller businesses. So if you are a large business and you're thinking about either locating with the university or wanting to collaborate with us on some of our projects, then please get in touch and we'll talk to you about the options. Next slide, please. And that's it from me. I just wanted to say thank you for your time to take your time out to listen to the webinar today. Also, please take note of our details on the screen there. employers@staffs.ac.uk is our main contact information if you want to contact us about anything prior to today. You can also visit our website for a full range of our services. We do also have a range of webinars ourselves, and you can also go online and look at our events and book onto any events that take your fancy. Thank you for your time. There's an email address there for Vanessa if you'd like to give any feedback or ask any questions at all about the future of work. And obviously there's a QR code there to scan to leave any feedback.
Fantastic. That was both brilliant, absolutely fantastic. Vanessa, I know that you were trying to speak there. I think you were just on mute just slightly. I don't know whether you want to unmute yourself just to go past Steve, if you can do so. If not, I just wanted to thank you all for being here today. Absolutely fantastic. It's been great to have both Steve and Vanessa here and obviously have them talk about the future of the office and some exciting things that hopefully will be available to businesses. And again, Steve, thank you for your offering from Staffordshire Uni. I'm sure that will come in useful for a lot of different people as the year goes on and the year goes by. I just want to say again a massive thank you from Steve and Vanessa, and hopefully we'll look forward to seeing you all very shortly in person as well. Thank you very much. Bye for now.